I have completed 4 musical analysis videos of the Islamic morning call to prayer and concluded that the effect of this is to violate individual sovereignty. And the morning Islamic call to prayer should be banned, therefore, in the United States of America. I will provide the support for that here with the points from my videos. The United States was the first moral society in history. All the previous systems had regarded man as a sacrificial means to the ends of others, and society as an end in itself. The United States regarded man as an end to himself, and society as a means to the peaceful, orderly, voluntary coexistence of individuals. All the previous systems had held that man's life belongs to society, that society can dispose of him in any way it pleases, and that any freedom he enjoys is his only by favor, by the permission of the society, which may be revoked at any time. The United States held that man's life is his by right, which means by moral principle and by his nature, that a right is the property of the individual, that society has no rights, and that the only moral purpose of a government is the protection of individual rights. To start off, we will analyze when these things occur and how they occur. The Islamic call to prayer is broadcast publicly at dawn. This, of course, is a violation of an individual's right to self-ownership because it occurs when the typical person sleeps prior to waking up for work. And of course, going to work is what a person does to survive. So therefore, the Islamic call to prayer obstructs a person's pursuit of an essential component for their survival, sleep. On the contrary, the music for the Christian worship takes place on private property in the church, and of course, it's voluntary to attend. You are not forced to acknowledge it. So that has to be set up front, that it is illegal in America for the Islamic call to prayer to happen at dawn because it violates noise ordinances. How the Islamic call to prayer at dawn subjugates individual sovereignty. Point 2. The melody immediately leaps upward from the tonic, the note from which all subsequent notes will get their identity. In other words, the music immediately rips the melody away from its identity tone, the tonic, to the dominant. You as an individual are torn away from your identity immediately to join Islam. First note that is longer is the second note. This is called an agogic accent. When a note is longer, it is accented by time. And the first agogic accent we have in the Islamic morning call to prayer is the second note. So what we notice right away with this opening interval here is that the first note is D flat, and that is the tonic note. It is the main note from which all the other notes in a song get their identity, the tonic. What happens right away? The music leaves the tonic immediately. So this is another subjugation of the individual because your identity, the entire identity of the music, is immediately departed from and gone up a leap higher of a fifth. So again, you are leaving yourself immediately to join Islam. So the tonic is so important because it's where the other notes get their identity. For example, if C is my identity, my tonic. So this is what E sounds like when C is my tonic. It has that sound. But now if I change the tonic, I'm gonna manipulate the notes a little. Changing the tonal center, disrupting it. Now E is my tonic. And that's what it sounds like. It sounds different now. I can disrupt that again and change the, make a pivot. Back to C again. And we're back to E sounding like this. So your tonic is really, really important. It's the point of identity for all of the other notes' relationship here. And the fact that the first two notes of this Islamic call to prayer so abruptly leave the tonic, again, it's like a sudden departure from your identity. It rips you away from who you are to go to Islam, to this place. There are large intervallic leaps at the beginning of music. For example, in the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, who said he devoted all of his music to the glory of God. But in this case, it leaps from a high note down an octave, which just reinforces the tonic. The Islamic morning call to prayer does not touch upon the tonic note except at the very beginning and not at all for the first 5 measures. The tonic, again, the note from which all the other notes get their identity. Again, a subjugation of the individual. So, it only touches upon it in an unaccented subdivision of the beat. And then you have 5 beats of rest after that, which we'll get into with the point about the steady pulse and the rhythm. But again, it's no mistake that they have avoided the tonic here in order to subjugate the individual to Islam. In fact, though, what they've done is made Allah into nothing. Where they say Allah is greater than everything, greater than anything, well, he has no point of reference, so he has no meaning. So your attempt to subjugate the individual with your music, in fact, just makes Allah nothing. How the Islamic call to prayer at dawn subjugates individual sovereignty. Point 3. Lack of a steady pulse. The human need for an actual stimulus or for simplicity of response in his or her musculature generally requires music passages to point toward the re-establishment of objective pulses or a return to a pulse coincidence. The Islamic call to prayer music obfuscates that, as we will prove here. Here we compare the rhythm of the Christian song Morning Has Broken with the Islamic call to prayer, Fair Adhan. If I, as an individual, am going to respond and interact with your music, then the rhythm has to have a steady pulse. A steady pulse is defined as a series of regularly recurring, precisely equivalent stimuli, like this. Each one is precisely identical, and it goes on in a series. None of them stand out. Though this information is generally established and supported by objective stimuli, those sounds, a sense of pulse may also exist subjectively. Again, we can hear this organization with the music of Johann Sebastian Bach with his toccata and fugue in D minor, BWV 565, where there will be pauses, but the subjective organization based on the original exposition of the rhythm will provide a steady pulse. We'll take a look at an example of that with the Bach Toccata and Fugue in D minor, BWV 565, where we'll have a steady pulse and a pause, but we can subjectively feel the pulse throughout. Ba-da-da! How did you know I was going to come in with the mi fa mi functions of the melody right there? Well, because the pulse had been established previously, and you felt secure in knowing when I was going to come in with that. That's a sine qua non of music, a thing without which music cannot exist. And the fact that the Islamic morning call to prayer ignores that, again, is an attempt to subjugate the individual to being insecure about the rhythm. And try to tap along. You can't. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا Let's take a look here at the Christian morning call to prayer from the song Morning Has Broken. We're going to look at the lyrics and the melody. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. As we observe the lyrics here, The lyrics are just telling you, here are the beautiful, great things that God has created. Acknowledge them, and find encouragement for your own beauty, for making your own achievements. It goes on again. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, just describing all the great creations of God. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness, where his, capital H, feet pass. Again, just showing that, look at all the wonderful things that God is creating. Please find encouragement from that to create your own. It's supposed to be encouraging the individual. And it goes on, with similar type words. If we look at the melody here, we can see that it starts out lower with the tonic, and it rises up to the higher tonic. Goes to a higher note and works its way back down a little bit. It has expended some energy, and now it has restored and relaxed some of that energy. This is what we would call an exposition. You're exposing an idea, and then the goal then is to develop that, and that's exactly what happens in the second line. They take that same rising melody there, but here it moves stepwise instead of thirds. But it's really the same contour, the same melodic shape. Again, that's what we would call a development. They introduce a new idea here. So it's just, starts on a higher note and goes down a third and back up again to the tonic. But then it takes that exposition and develops that with the same thing, only this time it's not thirds, it's again stepwise. Just exactly what they did in the examples of lines 1 and 2. To bring the melody back to the tonic. So yeah, it's definitely encouraging for an individual. Let's take a look here at the lyrics and the melody again at the fair at hand, the Islamic call to prayer, and look at the lyrics and the melody there. The first lyric is Allahu Akbar. Translated, that says, God is greater than anything and everything in existence, even one's own ego. So instead of showing you the beautiful things, the wonderful things that God has created and encouraging you as an individual to create your own, they're just saying God is greater than anything and everything, and also greater than you. So it's a subjugation of the individual. They do start out with an exposition of an idea at the beginning, which does later get developed a little bit. So instead of starting on the tonic and going to the fifth, they are going to start on the third and work their way up to the fifth a few measures later. But then they just return back to that. So melodically speaking, there's not really much of an exposition of an idea or much development either. It's lacking in that. Let's go on to the other lyrics here. There is no deity worthy of worship except Allah. Muhammad is the messenger of God. Hurry to prayer, hurry to success. Prayer is better than sleep. And again, the words are what we would call imperative case, where hurry to prayer. There's no subject. And, when we consider good manners, people who respect individual sovereignty, they don't use imperative case, like get me this, go do that, hurry up. People with good manners and good morals respect another person's individuality, individual sovereignty, self-ownership, by putting in a subject in there too. Hurry to prayer is imperative. Just like if there's an emergency, you obviously could say, watch out, move out of the way, like if an ambulance is coming down the street, and then it's an emergency. But here there's no need for the imperative case to be used here. Hurry to prayer, hurry to success. These are orders. Prayer is better than sleep. So again, subjugate
your personal interests, which again we're talking about at dawn, subjugate your personal interests, which are sleep, which you need to survive and go to work, subjugate that to coming to prayer. So the lyrics and the melody themselves, they subjugate the individual, unlike Morning Has Broken, which encourages the individual to just recognize the beauty that God has created and to encourage them to create their own. Yeah, for example, here in the third verse it says, "Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning." It's not like, God is the sunlight and you can't have it unless you join God. It's saying you as an individual can also partake in that and create your own beauty.
One more comment on the lyrics from the Islamic call to prayer, specifically the phrase, prayer is better than sleep. That is saying that prayer has a higher value than sleep. So if it's a value to whom and for what? That's really not explained. Why praying would be more of a value to me than sleeping, which is essential for my survival. Now, of course, on a farm, people also wake up at dawn to milk the cows, and that has value to them because otherwise, if the cows aren't milked every 12 hours, it's going to be even life-threatening to the cow's health. And of course, it gives the farmers time to, it's a good time to get their milk to market. So, of course, waking up at dawn has value for the farmer to wake up. But in the case of this Islamic call to prayer, there's no reason or reality behind valuing getting up at dawn to pray versus sleep.